Welcome to Inside the Vault, Enterprise Bank's podcast series where we talk about items of interest to small business. Today, we're going to talk a little Americana with America's oldest and largest forge operation, Wendell August Forge in Grove City, PA. With me today is Will Connect, who is the chairman of the board of Wendell August Forge and the chief brand officer. Will, welcome.
Dave, it's so good to be with you, and great to be with the great folks at Enterprise as well.
As Will and I were just talking online, you know, the stories of entrepreneurs and businesses, particularly family-owned businesses, you know, a lot of lessons can be earned by you, our viewers, as small business owners or friends of small business. So probably the best place to start is the beginning.
Sure.
So, you know, I just mentioned Wendell August is the oldest forge in the United States. Where did it start? Where was its humble beginnings?
It's a fantastic story, and it is rooted in the American entrepreneurial journey. Our founder was a guy named Wendell August, and he was a consummate entrepreneur. Back in the day, we're 100 years old. We're celebrating our 100th anniversary, and I can't remember what small sliver of companies actually make 100 years, but it's less than 1%, I believe.
And still stayed independent.
So what a privilege. Yeah. What a privilege to be part of a company that has such a legacy. But our founder, Wendell August, was a consummate entrepreneur. And he and my dad are sort of the bedrocks of our company. In 1923, when he founded Wendell August Forge, he was actually in the coal business. And at that time, he was in Brockway, Pennsylvania, and the coal business was struggling a little bit. And he had this group of blacksmiths on staff that he didn't want to let go. And he wanted to figure out ways that he could keep his blacksmiths employed. And so the blacksmiths would be making the shoes for the horses that would go in.
I was going to ask you, how are blacksmiths involved in a coal mining operation?
They would make the shoes that would go on the horses that go into the mines.
Right.
And so when the coal mining business was struggling, he thought of new ways to utilize his team. And so he started working in ornamental architecture in wrought iron. And so would do little things in the Brockway area for banks, homes, a fireplace, andirons, things.
I'm thinking like decorative kind of fences and gates.
Yeah, decorative wrought iron stuff just to keep people employed. And then in late 1920s, the Aluminum Company of America, Alcoa, as we know it today.
Which is based in where I live, New Kensington, Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. And New Kensington, I'm about to mention, plays an important role in our history. So they were building their research facility in the late 20s in New Kensington, and they were trying to highlight the new uses of aluminum, this wonder metal. And so when they were doing it, they had these massive gates that were the entry to their facility, and they wanted them done not in wrought iron, which was typical. They wanted them done in aluminum. So they did a nationwide search for the company that could create these massive gates in aluminum. Wendell August, our founder, being the consummate entrepreneur, raised his hand with his blacksmiths and said, we're going after that competition. And so he made a simple piece in aluminum, never had worked in aluminum before, made a simple piece in aluminum, presented it to the board at Alcoa, and lo and behold, he was selected to make the gates. And we began working in wrought aluminum for those gates. And he was so thankful because those gates kept his people employed. He was so thankful that he made a little gift in aluminum, a little dish in aluminum that he gave to all the board of directors as a thank you.
At
Alcoa. One of them got into the hands of Edgar J. Kaufman of Kaufman Department Stores. And Edgar Kaufman calls Wendell and says, hey, this thing is pretty neat that you did for Alcoa. Is there any way that you could put a picture of my house on aluminum and make dishes for me with a picture of my house? Wendell August, being the consummate entrepreneur, absolutely. He goes back to the office and talks to his blacksmith. How in the world are we going to do this? And so one of his blacksmiths, one of the key people in our history, Otto Pisoni, came up with a way to actually cut in steel an outline of the picture of Mr. Kaufman's house. And you put a piece of aluminum on top of it and actually hammered it. So those chiseled out portions in the steel die became the relief in which the metal that was hammered, the aluminum, actually went into, and when you turned it over, there was a picture of the house. Just like you and I when we were kids doing silly putty on the comics.
Right.
A very similar approach. But literally, Dave, 100 years later, or 90 years later, because this was in the late 1920s, we are still utilizing that same process where we engrave a design in reverse, in steel, we place metal on top of it, and we hammer metal into the chiseled out portions of the steel. And if you come up to our place in Mercer, we have a little history center. We have that original die. We have the original piece we made for Mr. Kaufman, and backing up, we have the original sample that Mr. August took in to the Alcoa team when he pitched making the gates. And oh, by the way, we have those gates on permanent loan from the good folks at Alcoa that enter into our workshop that people can see every single day. So it's an amazing story of great entrepreneurial.
I've been to your place, and I didn't realize those were the same gates, because I was like, what happened to the gates? Because I used to bike by them and drive by them as a kid for years and years.
Absolutely.
Small world.
It really is. Absolutely.
So you mentioned beyond Wendell August, your father.
Yeah.
So how did the business end up in the Connect family?
So, I'm blessed to be the second generation of the second family to helm Wendell August and to steward Wendell August, because that's really what we see us as, a steward of American craftsmanship. And so Wendell handed the reins of the company to his son, Robert, Bob August. Bob, did it, out of family loyalty, but really it wasn't in his heart. Again, a great story. In 1978, late 78, my dad approaches his accountant. My dad had spent 16 years at IBM, and the culture had changed in the mid-70s, and he was looking maybe to do something a little bit different. He went to his accountant and said, if a small business comes on your radar that I could buy, I would really be interested in that company. At the same time, Bob August goes to his accountant and says, this really isn't for me. If you could find somebody who would be interested in buying it, I would love to talk to that individual. Now, again, Wendell August was in Western Pennsylvania. I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, and that's where my family was. But that accountant that my dad spoke with and the accountant that Bob August spoke with happened to be the same guy. Within a matter of weeks, my dad and Bob are sitting down, and literally 4 months after he reached out to his accountant, my dad had left IBM and now was sitting in Grove City, Pennsylvania as the owner of Wendell August Forge.
What year was this?
This was 1978.
Okay.
Just a fabulous story, because if anybody who had known my dad, they could not have picked a better company for him to steward. My dad was a Renaissance guy. He was a collector of everything. He loved craftsmanship. He loved artistry. He was a proud American. He was very involved civically. And you think of Wendell August Forge and what we do and who we are, it was an absolute providential match made in heaven. And again, my father passed the reins to me about 18, 19 years ago now. And again, so I'm the second generation of the family who's been blessed to lead Wendell August Forge.
What a great story. Great story. So you were kind of born into the business.
Yes.
Walk us through.
It's interesting. Yeah,
walk us through what's happened since you've taken leadership.
Yeah, so, I was sort of born into the business, but growing up on the other side in Ohio, I wasn't in the business every day. And it wasn't my, absolute dream from the time my parents bought the company in 1978. I was 12 years old to go into Wendell. But I was in college. I graduated from Wake Forest University, living in Hilton Head, waiting tables, getting ready to move out to L.A. My dad calls and said, hey, we're thinking about selling Wendell August unless you and your sister are interested in coming on board. And he said, listen, no pressure. If you don't want to do it, no problem at all. We'll continue with the process of selling. If you are, give it a year. See if it's something that is in your blood like it's in mine. And if so, let's stay on. And if not, we'll sell it at that time, but at least we've given it a shot. And it was, what a great opportunity for a young guy. So, I came on board. My sister came on board. She ended up raising a family and left. She's still an owner. But I've been there 34 years now if you can believe that, Dave. Well, you can by looking at me, but 34 years I've been at Wendell August, and for me, it's continuing a tradition of American craftsmanship while adapting to technology and the competitive forces in Mexico and China to keep us viable. Our mission is not to be the biggest, but to be the best, to be high quality, to be unique and different. I mean, we get calls all the time, Dave. If it's, once a quarter, it's maybe more, or emails now from factories in China saying, hey, come over here. We can make it much cheaper, but there's no way. We are all about Western Pennsylvania, and we love the roots. We love being made in Pennsylvania. We love being made in America, and we will die being made in America.
And you've said many times, you and I have talked a lot over the years. Many times, it's the people that make Wendell August special, right?
It's phenomenal. The people that I am blessed to work with every day. We're not perfect as a company. We always want to get better, but I tell you where we are perfect, our people. I work with amazing people who have skills and abilities and talents in things that I could never dream of. And the way we look at Wendell is a family that that needs to produce, right? Because we need to stay viable in order to employ 70 to 120 people, depending on the season. We're very seasonal. We need to stay competitive with China and Mexico, and it's not easy. But what we realize is we're a group of 70 core people that have unique and different talents. And when we leverage those talents of each of us uniquely to the max, all bringing our different skill sets and talents to bear, that's when we win, and we win biggest. And again, your viewers, your listeners to this podcast who are exceptional entrepreneurs as well, they know that as well. You recruit people around you that have differing talents that augment your strengths, but also build into your weaknesses. And again, when you do that effectively, that's when the magic happens. And that's what we're trying to do at Wendell August as we steward American craftsmanship.
Right. And when we talk about family, and not just family, but community, you went through probably one of the greatest tragedies a business owner could go through in 2010. Major catastrophic fire to your legacy facility right in Grove City. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, incredible. I want to back up a couple days before the fire because, again, this is 2008, 2009. We all, many of us who are our age know what we were facing as a nation. The economy was absolutely tanking. We were a vertically integrated manufacturer. We were getting crushed. In late 2008, Thanksgiving, we had our annual meeting with our board of advisors, and they literally sat us down in 2008 on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and basically suggested to us that we sell the assets, we close down Wendell August, and we move to the next chapter of our lives because we had been so, beat up by the economic
Great Recession.
the Great Recession in 2008. We were together as a family that weekend, and at the end of the day, Dave, we decided we were going to keep fighting because the people we worked with and the customers we served, especially in Western Pennsylvania, were too important to just pack it in. And so we had a monumental task ahead of us in 2009. In 2009, I laid off about 40 people. Very painful, very difficult discussions. And it was interesting when we'd have those discussions, I was the guy in tears. My colleagues that I had to let go understood because they understood where we were. So we battled in 2009. And at the end of the year, we looked around and we were still around. And that was a victory for us in 2009. We went into 2010, and if you remember, at that time,
that's right around the time we started the relationship
between
the bank and
you guys
and
were
August.
integral. Yeah, and again, let me interject that because at that time in 2009, our bank that we had been with for 20 years, because we had violated one covenant, they kicked us to the curb, and we could not find a bank to come and help us except Enterprise Bank. Chuck and Randy and you, Dave, came alongside us. You saw what could be, and even in extremely difficult times, You said, we're willing to bet on this horse. You were the only bank that was there for us. And for us, that's going to be loyalty for years.
Yeah.
Because you were there in our darkest moment. Without you, we would not be in business today. We would have had to shut the doors because we had no banking facility.
Well, appreciate the sentiment, but I can still recall there's certain deals that you underwrite and you look at that kind of stick in your mind. And I recall the biggest thing that we looked at was the commitment of not just the family, your family, the owners, but the employees, the family concept. And again, you just said it. You made it through, did what you had to do under very difficult circumstances, and survived when a lot of businesses didn't during that period. And that meant a lot to the bank.
Well, you guys were key to that story, and that's 2009 when you joined us and partnered with us, literally partnered with us, and became key advisors along the way. And we've had some great discussions, and it's been extremely, extremely beneficial for us. Here we are, 14 years later, and we still have a great relationship. And we're still, joined at the hip. And again, we will be loyal to Enterprise Bank for as long as y'all will have us, for sure. And so we limped through 2009 with the help of Enterprise. We get into 2010, and there's an opportunity in Pittsburgh. The Civic Arena is closing, and the Pittsburgh Penguins are looking to memorialize the last game in the arena, which was early April. I think it was April 7th, 2010. So we saw this as an opportunity to go in and pitch that we wanted to potentially be that gift that all the ticket holders for that game would receive to memorialize that game, the last game for the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Civic Arena. And so I'll never forget my colleague, who's now our president, Christian Werner, and a fellow owner. Christian Werner comes on board. He creates an opportunity that we would make commemorative tickets. And we had the best pitch decks we'd ever made. He and I, on March 4th, go into the headquarters and we meet with the entire marketing team. And here are these two guys from this small little company presenting to probably the best franchise in hockey and one of the best franchises in professional sports. We give it our all. We know that if we can get this order, this is significant. This is March 4th, 2010, a Thursday. We leave, we go into Cranberry, we go to an all-you-can-eat buffet. I'll never forget it, a Chinese buffet, and we're eating. And Christian gets the call while we're eating. Hey, this is Dave Soltesz from the Pittsburgh Penguins. We want you to make 18,000 commemorative tickets for our last game in the Civic Arena. Literally, Christian and I get up in the middle of this restaurant. We're high-fiving, we're celebrating. And again, because for us, this was some light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to make it. We are going to make it. And the Pittsburgh Penguins had given us confidence. March 5th, we go in Friday morning. We have an all-hands meeting. And, I'm grinning ear to ear. And we make the announcement. We've got the award. We've got the gift. The Penguins are going with us. Now we have 4 weeks to make 18,000 handmade tickets. Our team got together and started immediately. That's March 5th, Friday. Saturday morning, we're cranking. And I'm out making some deliveries into local customers, and I get a call. Will, the Forge is on fire. Come back here. I'm like, what? Okay, I'll be back in a minute. Made my delivery, got back in my car. As I'm getting back in my car, one of my colleagues, one of our craftsmen, a man's man, is in tears. Calls my cell. Will, the Forge is burning to the ground. Get back here now. Long story short, Dave, on that day, March 6th, 2010, 2 days after we'd gotten our biggest order in history, we burned to the ground. Our flagship retail store, gone. Our manufacturing facility, gone. Our corporate offices, gone, burnt to the ground. And just stood there in disbelief while these 21 volunteer fire departments just rescued some things that were absolutely, the dyes. I mean, there's so much in this I could unpack that.
Right.
Just phenomenal heroics. And if any of your listeners are volunteer firefighters or have been firefighters, you're our heroes. And then, we're expecting the call from the Penguins to say, hey, thanks guys so much, but we're going to go in a different direction. Christian gets a call that Sunday, the next day. This is the 7th, and it's from, I can't remember who at the Penguins. Christian, do you think that you can still deliver on this order? And he said, in the spirit of Wendell August, absolutely. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, we can. Again, we're staring at an absolute, the embers are still burning. We have absolutely nothing. And Christian said, absolutely, we can. And he said, we thought you could. As a matter of fact,
Wow, what an endorsement.
How about this? We have a courier on his way to you right now with a check in the full amount of our order. And this was a substantial six-figure order. This wasn't, $15.
Right.
We have a courier with that full check. We know cash flow is going to be critical for you in these coming days. We want to play a part.
What a class organization.
Like, what an unbelievable testimony to the Pittsburgh Penguins, their leadership, their ownership, that they believed in a company that they should never have believed in. I mean, how many companies would have stayed with us and said, yeah, we think you can do it in 4 weeks? Oh, you're burned to the ground? They stayed with us, and they gave us the cash necessary. Long story short, that same day we met with I'm trying to make it less long. We met with our insurance broker who'd been a lifelong friend. We'd grown up together, and he pulled me aside. He said, Will, I've got to give you the reality. 60% of small businesses that suffer a catastrophic event such as this fire never recover. They go out of business. You need to be prepared for that. If you do survive, it's going to be up to 9 months before you're back in business. You just have to know that. This is too much to recover quickly. So prepare for 9 months. Here's what the amazing people at Wendell August that I work with every day and the community, including Enterprise Bank, what we accomplished together. Again, 60% go out of business. If we stay in business 9 months before we reopen, in 5 days, Dave, we had our manufacturing facility back up and running. In 2 weeks, we had our corporate offices fully staffed, fully furniture, all computers, all set up. And in 4 weeks, we had our flagship store reopened, all in rented spaces, all throughout the Grove City community, all on handshake deals, all with no money up front.
That's community support.
That is community support. That is, this Western Pennsylvania culture, right? We're in it to help each other. But the other thing from an entrepreneur's standpoint that I learned is we can't let our circumstances, what we see before us, impact the decisions we make. We have to see beyond the fire, beyond the rubble, beyond the circumstance to lead our teams through devastating events, challenging financial situations. We lose you lose the biggest customer. You have to be the rock that your team can rely on. And I don't have many skills, but I think during that time, I was uniquely positioned to help steward our company through that process because of my Christian faith. That I never wavered, I trusted the Lord. And in fact, the day of the fire, we had about 40 employees on site, many of them in tears. What are we going to do? How am I going to make my mortgage payment? How am I going to pay my rent? It was consternation. It was fear. And so we gathered together in prayer. We held hands, and I said a very simple prayer. God, we don't know what's happening. You do. We trust you. Show us what you'd have us do. And immediately, Dave, after that prayer, and this is not a joke, not over dramatization, right after that prayer, we broke as a team, and we began that moment rebuilding Wendell August Forge. And here we are today celebrating our 100th year.
Awesome. And you talk about rising from the ashes. It gave you, as tragic as this whole event was, it gave you an opportunity to build a facility that works best for you and the family of employees that you have.
How amazing. And I can remember my sister and I, as we were getting ready to do our grand opening, and my dad has been deceased since 2004, so he was not around. And as we were getting ready for the grand opening, my sister and I just got together for a second and just with tears in our eyes, and might even bring tears now, how proud Dad would be of us that we were able to do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing. So we could not build on our old site because it had been grandfathered in an old residential neighborhood in Grove City. We found a site out on 208, about a half mile from the outlet mall. And in October 2013, we reopened our new flagship facility, manufacturing and corporate headquarters, and there's where we are today. So, what we had no idea the day of the fire, what would happen, but the blessing from that time of us being steadfast, unwavering, not being defeated, not being discouraged, or when we were discouraged, being able to do it in private and not let our team see us sweat, cry, or panic. Where we are today is a direct result of us being able to, just rise from the ashes, as you said, and not lose faith. Again, as it was in 2008, 2009, we believed our family, our people, and our customers, and the tradition of American craftsmanship was too important to let go, and we were going to fight through it. And just thankful that we're still here today.
And even the rebuilding process and building the current facility was a team effort. A lot of people contributed a lot of either money or expertise. Can you talk a little bit about how that project?
Oh my goodness, it
was
an incredible group effort. Again, enterprise right at the core of it. We got a substantial grant from the governor and the RCAP program that allowed us to rebuild. We didn't have the resources to rebuild. Our insurance was such that it was healthy, but it wasn't, a recovery of a new facility. So enterprise and your team, the governor, and then the owners, we all came together, and we were able to partner together and make that building a reality. And again, it was a community event, and again, that's the other thing I think as entrepreneurs. Sometimes we think we have to do everything on our own, and we have to be the master of all things. But again, I know myself, I know my weaknesses, which are many, well enough. And so we were able to bring together all of these disparate groups together, great architects, great builders, you guys from the financial side, and pull together a phenomenal facility that will, last us, we hope, the next 50 years.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, for visitors to Grove City, what can they expect? What is the new facility size?
It's much larger than our old facility, which was about 20,000 square feet. Our current facility is about 50,000 square feet. We have a beautiful showroom, our flagship store that you come in and shop. And then we have the factory open as much as OSHA allows us. When we went from this little building on the end of Madison Avenue in Grove City to where we are on 208, a lot had to change because of OSHA. What we were doing where our guests could walk through the workshop, interact with our craftsmen, probably not the safest. And so OSHA did not let us do that and made us put barriers around our facility. But you can still go in. You'll go into our facility and you'll see anvils. You'll see ball-peen hammers.
Not a common sight these days.
You'll hear loud noises of the banging of the hammers on the anvils. You'll see engravers engraving in steel like Otto Pisoni did in the late 1920s as he created our craft. You'll get a sense of our history in a little history area. So we try to do it as well as we possibly can to make it a bit of an experience and not just a store. But again, it's a fun place. It is a bunch of good people doing great work. And we'd love to have your guests come. And again, if you come up from the Pittsburgh area, you just make the left off of 79, and we're maybe 3/4 of a mile up on your right-hand side. We'd love to have the guests come and visit us.
I've been there. It's a first-class facility, and really interesting, because the story that you just went through is kind of illustrated in the facility itself.
I was at the office yesterday, and one of the guests was a guy who retired from D.C. and worked in the Pentagon, and he'd never heard of us, and a friend told him about Wendell August, so he and his wife were vacationing, and they came over to see us, and he was absolutely blown away. Here's a great patriot, worked in the Pentagon for his entire career, and he said, I didn't know they're still doing this in America. This is so cool. More people need to know about this. And so, again, that keeps us going, right? That keeps us going, that we're doing something. We're not solving, we're not curing cancer. We get that. But in our little sliver of the world, we're doing something that we think is important in a couple of ways. One, we're trying to steward a tradition, a great tradition of American craftsmanship that over 250 years has been fostered and somewhat lost. But on the other side, we are trying to create an environment where people who are great working with their hands have somewhere to go. Not all of us are college bound, not all of us are tech gurus. Some of us are incredible working with our hands. We're great mechanics. We're great just doing little things, make models. We work in wood. And unfortunately, the manufacturing craft is being looked at less favorably this day and age by many. And so we still, in our little way, we're providing an outlet for those people who might not be college bound, but who love working with their hands, are great with cars, great with wood, and we can provide them a meaningful craft to raise their family and provide a salary that they can raise their family on. So that's important to us as well because we love American manufacturing.
So what is the breadth of the products today that Wendell August Forge manufactures?
Yeah, so what many of your listeners and our viewers might know us for, Christmas ornaments. That's still the bedrock of who we are. We do Christmas ornaments and more Christmas ornaments, but again, still all made by hand.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing. We do wedding gifts, a lot of wedding gifts, and one of the things we do really well in wedding gifts, baby gifts, is we can personalize something. If you have a wedding coming up in September, which I know you and your family do, we could personalize a piece for the couple and with their names engraved on one of our designs. And so wedding and baby gifts are really big as well. But Christmas is our big game as it relates to the B2C world. But we're very thankful also that our B2B side of our business, where we do recognition pieces and giftware for businesses and organizations across the country, across the world. We shipped an order out yesterday, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but for Lucasfilms, where they are memorializing Yoda and something that Yoda is doing, a big milestone for Yoda. And guess who they came to make the gift? Wendell August Forge. Kind of cool. Lucasfilm,
really
my kids were all fired up because they grew up on the Star Wars franchise. But we do amazing things like that for brands extremely well known nationally and internationally, and those local as well.
Yeah.
So recognition and giftware in the B2B space, and then wedding, baby, and Christmas in the B2C space.
We talked about the commemorative tickets for the Penguins that you all did, in the midst of the fire. You also did, because I have one on my mantle in my home office at home, you also did a piece for the Penguins based on pieces of the Civic Arena.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We did an ornament series with the roof of the Civic Arena.
I have one of those.
Which is just one of the most amazing projects that we got national renown for. And we've worked with other professional sports franchises to repurpose parts of arenas and stadiums as a result of that work. But you mentioned a very important part of our business, and that's the sports world. Locally, we are so blessed by the Pittsburgh Steelers and Pittsburgh Penguins, probably our two biggest customers, and just so thankful for their ownership groups and marketing teams that continue to trust us for opportunities to do great work together. And again, they're two of the best franchises in the world, in the sports world. So it's an honor. But we do a lot of work with NFL, NHL teams, colleges, universities. We just were granted rights to get onto the Fanatic platform.
Yeah.
Fanatics does all of NHL shop, NFL shop, a lot of the team shops. So we're looking forward to some great opportunity with Fanatics partnership, and sports is also a huge part of our future as well.
So for our viewers and listeners that would like to either see the products or purchase the products, in addition to the flagship store in Grove City, you also have a couple of retail outlets.
Well, actually, we've not. We have really streamlined our business over the last couple of years with advice from Randy Davidson here at the bank to really focus our efforts on where we're winning best. And a small company, again, trying to corral limited resources to the greatest effect. I think, for me, I'm a shiny object guy.
Yeah.
I love the new thing, the next new thing. But as I've matured and aged, what I've learned is great companies focus. And so we have one flagship store in Mercer, Pennsylvania on Route 208. We have a website, wendellaugust.com, that we do a lot of giftware from. So if any of your viewers can't get to Mercer, we encourage them to look at Wendell, Wendell, August.com, and see what we're doing there. And then the corporate space, wendellcorporate.com. So wendellaugust.com, wendellcorporate.com. And you can see a lot of our work. You see all the touch points, how to reach us via email or phone call. And again, we would be honored to talk with some of your viewers and your listening audience for sure.
So, we talked about this legacy of handcrafted Americana, basically. What's the future look like for Wendell August?
Yeah, the future it's unbelievable. I'm more excited today, Dave, for the future of Wendell August than I have been in 34 years. We are developing a young talent pool of leaders and next generation leaders as well. Again, I'm 57, right? I've got to recognize that part of my stewardship is transitioning to the next group of leaders internally. And so that's what, I'm spending a lot of my time working with younger leaders in our company to, help join their teams and support them in growing their leadership to new levels as well. So we're excited internally. We're developing a new bench. We're focusing on, where we win and where we win best, where the customers seem to resonate with us most, and also where we're able to make the most profit. Where those intersect, that's the thing of beauty for us. And that's where we really are focusing our efforts. And so you'll see a lot more around Christmas ornaments, a lot more around tickets, a lot more around personalization, that engraving I was telling you about. And you'll see us really fine-tuning our award program for recognition and continually building out our distributor network nationwide to work with companies when they have something special. That's really when people think of us. It's not the 11th anniversary that people come to us for.
Right.
It's the 10th or the 20th or the 25th or the 50th. That's when people think of Wendell August. It's the National Sales Award programs that we do for a multitude of major companies nationwide. That's when they think of Wendell August. And so that's what you'll see more of over the coming days and years at Wendell August. But Dave, what we feel that we are called to do is set it up for the next 100 years. And that's my legacy, is that just as my dad did, just as Bob August and Wendell August did, that Wendell August will be around far after Will Connect is involved and far after I'm on this earth.
What a great kind of concept. Or I don't even want to say concept. What a great philosophy.
Well, thank you, sir.
About small business ownership. You see yourself as a steward of a legacy and try to pass that, basically pay that forward to future generations.
Absolutely. And if I could comment on that, I see myself as I'm in the third quarter of life, but I'm probably in the fourth quarter of my business life, right? And for so many entrepreneurs out there, we don't think about succession planning. Everything revolves. And again, if there's any thing that I'm learning right now, my most important job is not today. It's not about today. My most important job is setting up our future leaders to succeed our current team and take us to new heights. And that's why I want to build into our young leaders for the future. And if I could encourage anybody in the same season of life that I am in, who are entrepreneurs, begin thinking about who the next generation of leaders are, so that your company too will far outlast you and build a legacy far beyond you.
Well, I was going to ask you what your advice for entrepreneurs, and you answered it without me even asking the question. So you've been through the highs and the lows as a small business owner for many years now. Any other tips or suggestions or thoughts about, let's say, an aspiring entrepreneur?
Yeah, and I've learned more from my failures and mistakes, but one of the things that I have learned from my many faults is that we as leaders need to see beyond the circumstances, I said earlier. that the here and now is not always truth. It might be the reality we see in front of us, but it's not always truth. And we need to project truth for our teams. We need to lead. Even when it doesn't feel great inside, we need to make the hard decisions for the good of the company, not for the ease of me. I'm not a confrontational guy, but yeah. I've got to do things that are sometimes hard because I've got 70 families that rely on some of the decisions that I make. But also, when things look bad, try and fight through. Bring a team together that can help you see beyond that circumstance to that next phase of life. And if it's there, stay focused on that, not on what you see immediately, whether it be cash flow problems, whether it be losing your best employee that drives 60% of your revenue, whether it's your best customer. As entrepreneurs, we face obstacles every day. The leader leads through those. And that's what I hope to do. I fall down a lot, but I recognize back in the back of my mind, that's what I need to come back to. So that would be on the day-to-day thing. And those who are in my season of if you're in the fourth quarter of your business life, be thinking about developing that next generation so that you can hand it to a great future.
Great advice. And thank you so much for telling the story of Wendell August. One of the most interesting relationships that I've been involved with here at the bank in terms of perseverance.
Yeah.
So
you.
Commend you and your team and your family for doing what you've done for so many families in the community in the Mercer County area.
Yeah, thank you.
For those of you that have any suggestions for future episodes or any specific questions, you can email us at insidethevault@enterprisebankpgh.com. And Will, again, how can people get in touch with Wendell August?
Yeah, wendellaugust.com is probably the best way to reach out to us. You'll find all of our contact information from there, including if you want to look at our B2B site, you can get there from wendellaugust.com.
Excellent. Please check us out on all the major podcast platforms and in video format on YouTube. Thank you very much for listening.